A Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time there lived a little country girl, the prettiest creature who was ever seen. Her mother was excessively fond of her. This good woman had a little red riding hood made for her. It suited the girl so extremely well that everybody called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother, having made some cake, said to her, "I'm very worried about your dear grandmother, who is stuck out alone in the woods. It is some time since we've seen from her, and I hope she is well. Go and take her these cakes and this little pot of jam."
"Yes, I will, Mother. I hope I find my way through the woods."
"Just follow the path directly through the woods and you will not fail to find her cottage."
"I have my cake."
"Yes, now put your hood up." Little Red Riding Hood set out immediately to go to her grandmother, who lived in another village. As she was going through the wood, she met a wolf, who, upon seeing her, had a great mind to eat her up, but he dared not because of some woodcutters working nearby in the forest. He sprang out to her on the path from behind some trees and said to her,
"Where are you going, my little dear? Can I help you?"
"I'm going to see my grandmother to carry a cake, but I can't find my way."
"Oh, does she live far off?"
"Beyond that mill over there."
"Well, I would keep to the path if I were you, unless you'd like to take a little shortcut to the left."
Little Red Riding Hood pauses for a moment.
"Yes, I would like to get there soon."
"Yes, indeed. You go that way, and I'll go this way. We may see each other soon."
Off the wolf dashes, running as fast as he can through the forest, taking the shortest path. Little Red Riding Hood takes a roundabout way.
"Oh no, I can't find the way. I'm so lost."
Little Red Riding Hood spots some butterflies and bluebells. She sweeps off her cape.
"The flowers are beautiful and sparkly. Oh no, Grandma would be worried about me. I'm so late."
Who was that little girl I met in the forest? Seems she was going on an errand to her grandmother's, she did say. I'd like to get there before she does. I cunningly gave her the wrong directions, so it may be some time before she gets to her grandmother's cottage. Let's see who gets there first. I'd better be quick before night falls."
The wolf dashes off in between the trees. As the wolf dashed through the woods, he started to think up his plan of how he will approach Grandma. Meanwhile, in Grandma's cottage...
"Now, where is that poor child? She said she would be coming to see me soon, but there is now a sign of her yet, and it's growing dark. I will put the kettle on the stove for when she comes, and some blankets so she will have a warm bed to sleep in. I expect she'll be here soon."
Grandma set to work with the sheets and the kettle. It was not long. Wolf arrived at the old woman's house. He knocked at the door. Tap, tap.
"Just in time. That must be her. Is that you, my sweet?"
"Your grandchild, Little Red Riding Hood, who has brought you a cake and a little pot of jam sent by your mother."
The good grandmother, who was in bed because she was somewhat ill, cried out,
"Pull the string and the latch will go up."
The wolf pulled the string and the door opened, and then he immediately fell upon the good woman and ate her up in a moment. For it had been more than 3 days since he had eaten. He then shut the door and got into Grandma's bed, expecting Little Red Riding Hood, who came some time afterward and knocked at the door. Tap, tap.
"Who's there?"
Little Red Riding Hood, hearing the big voice of the wolf, was at first afraid, but believing her grandmother had a cold and was hoarse, answered,
"It's Little Red Riding Hood. I've bought cakes and a pot of jam
pull up the string and the latch will go up.
Little Red Riding Hood pulls the string and the door opens up and she enters into the cottage. Part 2. The Wolf. The wolf sees her come in and says to her, hiding himself under the bedclothes,
Put the cake in the little pot of jam upon the stool and come and sit on the bed with me.
Little Red Riding Hood goes to sit on the bed. She is greatly amazed to see how her grandmother looks in her nightclothes and says to her,
What big arms you have.
All the better to hug you, my dear.
What big legs you have.
All the better to run with you, my dear.
What big ears you have.
All the better to hear you, my dear.
What big eyes you've got.
All the better to look at you, my dear.
What big teeth you have.
All the better to eat you up, my dear.
And saying these words, this wicked wolf fell upon Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood shouts at the top of her voice,
Help! Help!
Fortunately, a woodcutter who is nearby cutting wood hears the cries of a Little Red Riding Hood from the cottage.
Now, how many pieces of wood must I cut before I leave this wood? Here is 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of wood I have cut in these woods with my trusty axe. These woods need felling before winter time is near, as this wood is becoming overgrown and the path for local folk is unclear.
The woodcutter hears the Little Red Riding Hood's cry for help. He listens and looks around him to see where the sound is coming from.
It sounds like someone needs help. I will go and see if I can be of assistance.
The woodcutter puts down his axe and heads in the direction of the cry for help, which leads him to Grandma's cottage.
Help! Help!
The woodcutter runs up to the cottage and knocks down the door with his axe. He steps inside Grandma's room.
Who are you?
Come with me.
He prizes the wolf from Little Red Riding Hood and sees Little Red Riding Hood from the wolf, who falls over to the stone-cold floor and remains motionless.
It's my tent.
This way, this way.
The woodcutter guided Little Red Riding Hood out of the cottage. Together they walk hand in hand down the path from Grandma's cottage and into the woods, and they all lived happily ever after. The end.